Now this is all a lot to take in, and if you've gotten this far, you're probably feeling like we've overcomplicated things. You're right. The sneaky thing about this seemingly simple user flow is that we've invented a bunch of objects we didn't realize we had, and we've missed a bunch of stuff. So let's go back to the start and see what parts we missed.
It's like when you started this process, you had a billion post-it notes, each of them a goal. Once you actually looked into one of those goals, you realized it had a whole ton of steps. Now that we've figured out what the steps from that goal from start to finish are, there are even more bits of detail that we've got to flesh out to prove that we actually understand the scope of this.
It's good to go back and add other see-do steps that aren't in the main user flow. This helps us make sure that we haven't missed any objects and all of our interfaces are listed. For example, let's look at specifically what happens when a new user signs up in the system. When they sign up, what happens if they already have an account and they just forgot about it? This means we need a login page. But what if they forgot their password? Now we need a I forgot my password page, which itself necessitates a reset password email, which itself leads to a reset password page. That's a whole bunch of functionality hidden behind something simple like login. A lot of application builders, whether it's a coder or a framework or an agency, will have kind of standards for things like logging in and signing up that they'll package up anytime they build an app. But it doesn't hurt to be really specific about how these work, because your needs might be subtly different from the standards out there. Let's look back at my example. What about the simple act of searching for plants near me? What if there isn't plants within, say, 5 kilometers? Does the system automatically search wider, or does it just say no results? If it does increase the search range, how far does it go out to find plants? We need to write all this down or we're guessing, and it's not really a specification. What about if I find a plant I like and the user who posted it has a nice face? Can I tap on their face or their name to see all of the plants they're selling? We've just invented a new interface, the user profile page, which itself lists a bunch of objects, plants owned by this user. Once you've completed your user journey and you've kind of fleshed it out with all of the extra stuff, you should know most of the objects, users, and interfaces in your idea. At this point, take a picture, rub it all out, select a new user goal, and go through that user goal using the same mapping process. Most apps have a number of journeys that a number of different users go through, and by mapping out all of them one by one, we make sure that we've covered our bases on all of the stuff that the app is going to do. As you keep rubbing out and redoing the journey mapping process, don't rub out the objects, users, and interfaces. You might even find that it becomes so big that you can't fit it on the whiteboard anymore. Just make sure that it's noted down in a document somewhere.
Every time I've done this, people get grumpy that they have to put yet more information on a board. And it's much cheaper to put it on a board right now and then rub out that board and do it again and get very clear in your head what your app does. Much cheaper to do that now than have a coder spend 40 hours getting it wrong.
It's normal for the journey mapping to take a good 3 to 4 hours to go through all of the different user goals. It's the act of getting things out of our heads so that it's into a format that software developers can understand.
People have this assumption that if you build a piece of technology, people will use it. This is the build it and they will come fallacy. By going through the process of creating a tiny little bit of functionality that can be built, it means a developer can understand and build it quickly, you can put it in front of users, and then they can tell you what they want. The worst thing that can happen is that no one uses it. At least we figured that out quickly. The best thing that can happen is you put your tiny, not quite there app in front of people, and they start to request stuff, which means that they're telling you what they want the app to do. You're not guessing. This is the process of making sure we've covered everything, because only once we've covered all of the bits can we start to cut it down into something sensible.